we'd like to do today is to talk about the progress in this process that we have made, especially in this phase, the basis of design phase, and to talk a little bit about what we will be doing in this phase. I want to just mention I'm joined today, and you'll hear from some of the other members of my team, including Tim Williams from my office, project manager of the project, Lisa Wanamaker of Wanamaker Jensen, our local partners, Tom Leader, landscape architect of Tom Leader's studio, Mike Wessel of Janicki Environmental, and you heard a little bit from Chris Balestra, but also Raul Quintana from the city of St. Petersburg will be speaking with us in a little bit. We've set out an agenda for our conversation today for the key topics that we'd like to cover. And there'll be a series of different parts to this presentation, but just briefly, we want to talk about the basis of design and what that is as a roadmap for the new pier. The community outreach that's been going on in the city with our team to talk a little bit more about what you can do at the pier. What specifically are we looking at in terms of opportunities on the pier? How many of these conversations have increased the number of enhancements to the design that are key to the pier's success, to talk a little bit more about progress on the underwater feature, and then to talk a bit about some of the specific components of the project that have to do with the delivery and management, including our work with construction experts, specifically about the budget, the technical criteria that is a part of the ongoing work of developing the pier, and then finally a schedule outline, a timeline for the new pier. This team has been working in a concerted way over the past months in a very intense and focused way to do a number of things. And I wanted to just outline some of what we've been working on. First of all is to reach out to key contributors, constituents, to the public about what people's ongoing ambitions, goals, and fears are, anxieties about the pier. We've been doing intense work in reaching out to the science and research community through the ocean team meetings that we've been having and dialogues that have been centered around the ocean team. We've developed a focused effort in working with the city to determine the hard technical and code-related criteria that are going to continue to govern the development of this project. And that, as you can imagine, as an overwater structure, is a reasonably intricate series of interweaving technical issues, to continue to contribute to both the environmental resource and demolition permitting, which is ongoing, participate in the construction manager selection process, as well as the demolition bids which are coming in. And over the last 4 weeks, a truly intense constructability and cost model collaboration and coordination series of sessions with Skanska, the recommended construction manager who has been doing this work separately, really on their own, in preparation for hopefully their work in the future. All of this work has been going on over the past weeks and leading to the final basis of design report. But what I want to do today is to give you a sense of where we are and to get your comments, because this is one of the key moments in which questions and comments can be instituted into this underlying roadmap that will lead us to the new pier structure. Now, in the basis of design process, there are really 5 key objectives that we are looking to try to achieve. This is not a design even though it says basis of design, I don't want there to be a mistake. This is not the actual design part of the process. That starts after basis of design. This is quite literally what the name of the phase says. This is understanding and researching all of the criteria and supporting materials that will allow us to have a basis on which we will go forward with the schematic and design development work in the coming months. But these 5 key objectives are to gather input from the public, city agencies, and key stakeholders that will be valuable in going forward with this project from a design standpoint. To advance the permitting and demolition process for the project, to select a construction manager who will develop cost models, schedule, constructability parameters, and who will serve as a real as we call it, touchstone for the project all the way through. It's important that they become a partner member of this team. To identify the essential programmatic and technical criteria which will shape the project going forward, and with the help of the construction manager, present to you, the city, and the citizens of this community, a concept which achieves its aspirations within the target budget goals. The basis of design is leading, as I mentioned, at the end of the phase to a set of information, really a report that will much more deeply outline the project in specific forms. But just to give you a sense of what that list of deliverables will be at the end of the basis of design, we will produce a program narrative and drawings that describe the scope and the design concept of the pier as it has evolved. To develop further the city's governing design and technical criteria, which will obviously also have a significant impact on the design as it goes forward. An outline of the concept's key building systems. It is a pier, but there are many systems, especially engineering systems, which are a part of this project. A list of opportunities for ongoing sustainability assets, both in the way in which the pier is constructed and also how the pier will be sustainable in the long term. A cost model for the basic design elements of the concept within the designated construction cost budget. An itemized list of opportunities for enhancement to the concept beyond the basic elements, because we are also aware that the pier is connected to the uplands, to a whole series of components in the city, and we want to understand and help everybody understand what those connective elements are. And then finally, a usage diagram depicting the possible future programmatic and planning opportunities that this new pier can be an armature for the city in the future. We've had a number of conversations, as I mentioned, with groups within the city. Lisa Wanamaker, who really has been an extraordinary partner in this process, has been leading that effort, and Lisa's going to come up and talk a little bit about how that effort is going forward.
Over the past few months, we've been meeting with local organizations and concerned citizens. This is just a partial list of the groups that we've met with. Nearly 1,000 persons in over 25 separate meetings have seen the presentation. And so we've had the opportunity to hear firsthand many questions, comments, and suggestions. We're taking their feedback seriously and incorporating their questions and concerns into our ongoing project development. Key people, like members of the Marina and boating community, will continue to remain engaged and contribute to the refinement of the program. The overwhelming majority of the feedback following the presentations has been positive, and those who hear the presentation are satisfied that their concerns will be addressed. If you read these few quotes from community members, you'll see that they talk about a growing enthusiasm, a greater understanding of the plan, and about being inspired. Our current pier has a lot to keep people occupied, and some of the most popular activities like dining at a full-service restaurant, are shown here in this list. What many people didn't realize, and maybe are just now learning, is that this same list of activities and programs can still occur on the new pier. And they are also finding that the new pier provides additional activities and program spaces, like extensive shaded areas and an underwater light show. One advantage of the new pier is that these program opportunities, like shopping, getting something cold to drink, buying a hamburger and a beer, or simply using the restroom, are now provided at multiple locations along the pier, beginning at the upland. It's this kind of new knowledge that has given many people a greater level of comfort with the new pier design.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. What I'd like to do now is to talk a little bit about what we have developed following on many of these outreach meetings that Lisa was describing. In many cases, during those meetings, suggestions of how the project could continue to prove talked about elements which, in a sense, already existed in the pier as it had been designed in the competition, but needed further clarification. But also, in many cases, there were terrific suggestions of what could be added to the pier, and that has been a part of our work as well to accomplish that. And I want to describe those a little bit further, both in terms of what has been further clarified, and importantly, what has been added at the pier. And what I'd like to do is to really almost take a walk along the pier to guide you through some of the very specific elements and specific areas on the pier and the pier design that have been developed. We'll start with the welcome mat, which is the piazza at the very front of the pier. It is the connective threshold between the uplands and the city and the pier itself. This space is both a very much the welcoming destination, the place where people will first engage with the pier, but it also has the possibility, as we are developing it, of being a vibrant public piazza, a place in the city in which the community can use as their public space. That would allow for impromptu as well as programmed activities, everything from large festivals and events to smaller, more intimate gatherings. It could certainly be musicians, it could be performers, dancers, as well as some of the programmed activity that we've identified, the possibility of farmers market, street festivals. This is the place where the pier tram, which runs all the way out to the length of the pier, would take off from. This is a transportation hub as well, and has the potential, really the goal, to be connected into the larger transportation network within the city, a real launching point. At the center of this pier, there is the possibility, opportunity for an extraordinary public water feature event as really a destination icon or landmark, obviously both during the day and at night. And importantly, this location is the hub for a number of other activities, some of which I'll describe at the adjacent commercial and retail marketplace, but also creating access to places on the uplands like Spa Beach. So parking, which continues to exist in the parking lots that exist on the uplands now, is immediately adjacent to this point, the central organizing and orienting point. And importantly, as the majority of the pier is, this is a point of universal accessibility. This is the place in which you are able to start moving onto the pier. In the competition, we had designated an area that we called the hub that was actually organized a little bit more inland at the time, and that we have started to slide around so it has a stronger connection to the waterfront. And the hub, as we've been developing it, is a waterside retail and commercial anchor, a place where a number of different activities as well as commercial spaces could occur. And one of the reasons for moving the hub to the waterfront location is that it has extraordinary views it presents and allows for extraordinary views of the bay. For bayside dining located here, you have the possibility of being right out over the water, and also, frankly, this is one of the best views of the pier itself. So we're trying to create this moment in the project as a place where you can see that new icon for the city with the bay in the backdrop. This would be a place for sit-down, seated dining, as well as retail amenities, a gift shop. If you're buying a postcard or a souvenir at the pier, this would be the place that you would go. A waterfront promenade along this edge of the breakwater, and there's the possibility that fishing could take place from there as well, which you see here to enhance the fishing experience. Shade canopies at this point, so that really at the beginning of the pier, after that either parking or walking out along the uplands, this is a place to pause, to relax, to get your bearings, potentially get something cold to drink before you continue on your promenade out to the pier. And importantly, there are a series of amenities that we have choreographed along the entire pier, for instance, public restrooms and rest stations, so that walk that you have to do between those amenities now of, I think it's 3,300 feet, is broken up into a series of much more manageable and discrete pieces along the entire pier. In all of the conversations, one of the things that we have heard again and again and again is that shade and places to sit, to pause, to relax along the pier is an important functional component of, or needs to be an important functional component of the new pier. And that can't just happen out at the far end of the pier or at the very beginning, but needs to happen along the entire length of the pier. The primary area around the center basin of the lens has the large shade canopy in the project, which allows for shade along this entire perimeter of the inside of the lens. As I mentioned, the hub is here, but at this point, the crossing between the lower water walk promenade and the upper bridge, we have designated that as an area to add a number of shade and shelter, shade canopies and shelters. And in this area, there would be the possibility of obviously sitting, relaxing, with friends, as individuals, to be a place to people watch as people walked back and forth, the tram went out. But importantly, this becomes really a central event for larger special event viewing. For instance, 4th of July celebrations, this would be an incredible place for people to be. As you move out further and start to engage the more main part of the structure of the lens, we have started to amplify one of the areas that we call the Marina outlook, which is also in many ways like a new porch at this point. One of the comments that we have gotten is again that having to go all the way out to the end of the pier before there is a place to sit and watch the activity, for instance, within the marina, is too far. So by starting to create a place that has both shade, seating areas, but not just individual seating areas, but more group couches, outdoor couches, as a place for groups to sit and connect, is important. This is also one of the pier tram pick-up and drop-off spaces, so someone doesn't have to go all the way out to the end. They can actually be on the pier really at that location. This would certainly, as a large porch, be a significant place for those larger civic celebrations within the lens, including events like the lighted boat parade, so that this is a place where you can participate in those activities in more significant ways. The marina is one of the most vibrant parts of the project. As we had originally designated the marina, it was a real hub of activity, but that has only increased. The marina, as it is being developed, is now able to hold approximately 24 transient slips for boat parking. If the welcome mat is the threshold from the city to the pier, the marina in many ways is the threshold for boats back to the city. And so we see this as an important front door for people who want to park, be at the pier, but also get off their boats and walk into downtown to be a part of the restaurants, the street culture, the cultural museum events that are already shaping the entire waterfront. As well, the marina has the possibility of designated fishing areas along the open side, which we have designated on that portion of the pier. Kayak rental would be located, kayak rental would be located at this location. This is also one of the places for food and drink concessions. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other food and beverage services on the pier, but this is an important one because it's really midway from the far promontory of the pier and the food and drink concessions at the hub. And so this is a place that, as you're walking out, we imagine many people will sit, pause, and spend time around that amenity. As well, there is a full-featured bait shop, which certainly will be serving the fishing area. And this area as well is completely accessible, which is an important thing that the entire community has the ability to be at the marina and down very close in contact with the water, because at this point the marina is even lower to the water than the pier structure itself. So you're at that point very much coming in contact with the bay. Moving a little bit further along, we have added an area called the Education Amphitheater. There are many activities that will take place at the pier, but none more important, we feel, than education. The pier has a real responsibility, has a real role as being one of the thresholds to people understanding the water landscape that St. Petersburg is so much a part of. And this amphitheater, a series of step seating and balconies that lead right down to the water, does a number of things. It allows people to get very close to the water. It would allow school groups, education groups, docent tours, guided tours, science community tours to create the opportunity for hands-on learning right at the water. This starts to get you very close to the water, and some of the enhancements around the underwater feature that would allow for wildlife viewing. As I mentioned, the school field trips, this would very much be a destination point at the lens. Universal accessibility, absolutely. A stop for the tram, pelican watching, and even the possibility of performance events at that location. Moving a little bit further along, the Promontory. The Promontory has always been thought of as the primary destination. It is out at the very end of the pier. It's the place where, as you've made this journey, you have the most extraordinary views of the bay itself, of the water, of that changing and very dynamic landscape. And we have increased the opportunities for activity at the Promontory. It starts with the addition of a new large shaded dining area, in a sense, an outdoor cafe restaurant, really a dining garden that is under shade, protected from the weather by the shade canopy, and would be served by a full-service food service component. We want this place, the new dining garden, to be the place that is an everyday dining experience, that this is the place that people would go with their friends, that it's informal enough, but that the menu is varied enough and broad enough, that this would be the place that you would go after work with friends. This would be the place that you would meet your family for dinner. This is the place that you would go on the weekends as a special event to be out over the water landscape, to make it an active part of the life and the vitality of the entire waterfront on a 365-day basis. There would be a cafe that would be a part of that, so that certainly you could have drinks with friends after work on the weekends. The Promontory as well continues to have the stepped piers down to the water, on which you're able to access and get a real connection to the water. But that's always also been the location of the ice cream or gelato shop at the far end, which is a place that we continue to think that families with small kids, visitors, tourists would very much enjoy. This is the end point, really the destination for the pier tram pickup and drop-off. It's also the place that you would get back on the tram to come back into the city. This larger shaded dining area is very flexible in the way that we are designing it. It has a great deal of infrastructure in it that would allow the possibility of supporting larger functions beyond the dining functions. So for instance, it could be used as a rental facility for both civic events and also possible events like weddings, family events, and that caterers would have the ability to connect to the infrastructure that is out at that portion of the pier. It would support larger civic functions like a wide range of dances, salsa dances, community dances out on that space, and should be programmed as such. And as well, as I mentioned, all along the pier, there are other rest facilities like public restrooms out at that spot. Arcing up along the face of the crown of the pier continues to be the bike path, really a signature element of the new pier, which we've really begun to think of as a new skyway for the city. And what we mean by that is that one of the important components of the pier is, in fact, to see both the bay, the water, and to see St. Petersburg. And because that bike path starts to rise gently from the promenade as it arcs across and then goes across the large oculus or bay window out to the water, the views of the water will be phenomenal. The views of downtown become very significant in the skyline, your attachment to the skyline. It has the possibility of being really a much larger public viewing area, public balcony for large events, like, again, 4th of July fireworks viewing, and is a part of the active life of the city and the community in St. Petersburg as well. It is bicycle accessible and is really in many ways an alternate route for bicycles, would be a fantastic place for jogging, place for running races, and there is universal accessibility all the way up for the entire community along that skyway. But those views are not just at the skyway. The current pier has phenomenal views all the way up to the very top, and we have continued in the design to increase the number of overlook balconies at this far end of the pier structure, of the canopy structure. These are smaller, more intimate, elevated balconies, the highest of them being really at the same level as the roof of the upper observation platform at the pier now. So you're really up at a point where you can have these breathtaking views of sunrise, sunset of Tampa Bay, the incredible skyline views. And while in the competition, those balconies were primarily facing the bay, we've added the number of balconies to look back to the skyline, knowing what an important part of the experience of the pier that will be. And these balconies, as I mentioned, are a bit smaller, not so much large public spaces, but you can imagine grandparents and grandchildren, families with their kids, thinking of that space almost as their own. And we're not blind to the idea that people fall in love at the pier, and that there needs to be spaces for that as well. And so these balconies, in a sense, have hopefully the capacity to inspire couples. The underwater feature has been a part of the project from the very beginning. And we have seen it as a continued learning opportunity on the bay. There's been a great deal of conversation, a great deal of discussion about the underwater feature. And I'd like to introduce Tom Leader and Mike Wessel, who have been leading the effort to define further what the underwater feature can in fact be for the pier and for the community.
Hi, we're happy to be here too. Thank you. During the competition, we told you that we wanted to create an underwater feature in the center of the lens, one of the key features of the project, and that it would create a terrific educational and experiential part of the project that allows you to understand and know more deeply about the ecology of Tampa Bay. And we also said that we wanted this to be a very community-supported project. We're moving forward with that. We said we would reach out to the extensive ocean scientists, all of the marine scientists and the research community within our area here. And then we would look for their help in developing the most appropriate ways to align the idea that we brought forward with all the circumstances that we're able to understand in more full dimension at this point, so that we're able to engage education, technology, and all the means of accessing and seeing into the water. So over the past few months, this is exactly what we've been doing. We have gotten together a process that Mike is going to describe in more detail so that we can have constant feedback going forward. And our goals continue to be to create a feature that is very memorable, unique, a very exciting and original experience of marine life for visitors. And second, to create a feature that is community supported and in many ways generated by community input, feedback, and so forth. And third, to create a process going forward, not only for the life of the project, but well beyond, for the community to feed ideas and for the community to be able to receive things back about the project. So it's a two-way interface. So Mike, do you want to tell us a little bit about the outreach effort we've done? Sure. Yep. I skipped a slide already.
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon. The team heard what you said. Go talk to the marine experts. And so they brought us on to help open up that dialogue between the scientific community and the team and I'm just going to give you a brief summary of the process we use to include their technical expertise and their guidance into the design components of the underwater feature. We began the process by identifying key personnel to contact from the St. Pete Ocean team and others with local experts in Tampa Bay ecology and restoration. And then we conducted a series of one-on-one interviews. And we asked them what they currently knew and understood about the current design, what they saw as opportunities and limitations are associated with the underwater feature, and what their willingness to participate was in the future direction of this underwater feature. And following the personal interviews, we set up a workshop on July 26th where the architectural team could present the most current updates on the design, as well as provide a summary of what we heard in the personal interviews. And there was about 20 people at that meeting. And we proposed a goal statement at that time to design an attractive feature that can highlight the estuary and engage the public. And then we opened up the floor for discussion, and there was a rigorous debate, there was a healthy skepticism, there was constructive dialogue, and a wealth of ideas forwarded that could be incorporated into the technical aspects of the design. But a common theme that emerged was that the feature has tremendous potential to serve as a platform for educating the public about the Tampa Bay estuary and about marine science in general. Everyone agreed that the details of any physical design components need careful consideration, but that it was a worthwhile endeavor to continue the process to assess the feasibility of incorporating the feature into the larger lens design. And one of the really interesting things that happened during the meeting was the director of Stanford Research Institute ran the group through an example of a best practice that his company uses in product development. And it was by identifying the clients and their needs, and we could then identify approaches, benefits, and constraints involved in developing the best product to serve the needs and create value with this component. And so Tom's going to talk more about that. We've currently scheduled, or we're currently scheduling a follow-up meeting with the group to continue this dialogue. Tom's going to run through some of the outcomes of that meeting and future design components.
So, we talk about the community, and this workshop helped us to understand in more full dimension who the community is, what are the components of the community. So there's really, I would say there's 4 or 5, depending on how you look at it. Number one is the St. Petersburg public community and visitors who come here. What do they need? What we're hearing is that they need an exciting experience, the marine environment that we just said in Tampa Bay, that creates a visible identity. And it needs to be something that attracts kids. Kids bring families, and families bring the rest. And there needs to be a chance to feel involved. Second, the education and the research community are looking for a visible and an interactive two-way platform for the public to engage not only with Tampa Bay, but with the efforts that they're making, and to create a way for them to really represent themselves to a larger public through this project. And they want to instill, really lifelong interest in the field and the growth of the field, and this is a great way to bring visibility to that effort. The business community. The business community would like to generate interest locally and nationally in St. Petersburg Waterfront. And they would like something that really stimulates revisitation. That's why the feature has to be something that's continually changing and evolving over time, not static, so there's always an interesting thing to come back for the next time. And in addition, the Bay restoration community is important here, the advocates for Tampa Bay. And they also want to have visibility brought to all of the work that's going on around Tampa Bay and efforts to help improve it. So they then informed us of all the challenges we face. And some of these you've heard already. Number one is that the clarity of the water isn't going to change overnight. We can't make it visible all the way to the bottom. You don't want it to look like the Florida Keys. The estuary looks that way for a reason. It's a nursery for fish and other animals. And so what we want to do is work with that. So we need to be able to understand what the exchange rates are in and out of the feature in terms of water movement, and also the waves. Not only the feature, but the habitat that is there needs to be able to grow and flourish within some of these more stressful conditions that are a bit further away from shore. So that puts certain parameters on the habitat, Safety, it needs to be safe to visitors and anyone that gets close to it. Permitting, we need to be able to coordinate with the permitting process enough that we have something that can go forward within a reasonable amount of time of the project schedule. Maintenance is key. The feature has to be designed so that it can be maintained primarily by non-specialized staff and not require extraordinary expenditures or unusually special equipment. And cost, it needs to be able to fit within the budget. It's not an unlimited number of things. Now, as far as what could be brought to the place, we heard a lot about the possibility of technological advances in imaging to provide ways to see the entire environment that you may not see with your naked eye at the top. We can use underwater cameras, we can use different ways of monitoring to let people see what's happening and for them to see how the currents move, what's the salinity, what is all the kind of digital output that could be brought and made very visible and exciting way to people on the surface. Hydroacoustics, that we can use, we can be able to hear sound throughout that entire environment. Underwater lighting will be a very easy to do and not easy to do, but a straightforward approach where we can highlight features of the underwater, potential reef, and make that glow at night, attract more fish. It'd be great to be able to do on-site energy generation using the current so that it really ties into the story and helps power what we're working on. And the other big component here is the reef, the idea of artificial reef structures. And what we need to do with the reef is provide basically underwater housing. And housing needs to be of different sizes, from tiny to fairly large. It needs to be quite a complex series of spaces that this will allow a species to come and live there. And when the species come and live there, then the diversity will evolve, and then the whole thing will start to go. So the first job is to make something that can work both in the intertidal zone, which is in the tidal flux that's exposed at low tide, and the areas below that all the way down to the bottom. So the next steps here on the underwater feature are to work again with the group we've assembled to get to the combination of components that's going to really deliver the biggest, bang for the public buck. That's the bottom line here. What will make the most excitement, the most interest, and the most connections to resources and institutions. And the other thing that's key here is that we propose a network for communicating back and forth between the community and the feature itself that can work on indefinitely, things like websites and other platforms. So talking about how we're going to move forward, we want to move now to Raul Quintana, who's going to talk more about the delivery process.
Thanks, Tom. Good afternoon. Tim and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the other ongoing activities during the basis of design. And one of the most important one was making a decision on the construction delivery method. And as you know, a construction manager at risk form of project delivery method was presented to City Council by Mike Connors as the recommended method for constructing the new pier in May of this year. The city, along with Michael Maltzan, evaluated the pros and cons of a construction manager at risk delivery method versus a hard bid. And it was determined that the construction management at risk is particularly well suited for a complex and unique project to control the cost and to ensure that we maintain the schedule and the competitive bidding process. So with that, an RFP was issued and 10 firms submitted their qualifications. The design team participated in the evaluations and the interviews in an advisory capacity, leading to the selection committee's ranking of Skanska as the highest ranked firm. Then on August 2nd, City Council approved the ranking and authorized staff to negotiate an agreement with Skanska, which is currently underway. So Skanska, as Michael mentioned, almost immediately and at their own costs have been pretty active in developing and working with the team to look at the process for developing a cost plan, which is a vital component of the basis of design, and a plan that can confidently the whole team can stand behind. A main objective of the basis of design, as was mentioned, was to present a concept to City Council that's done within the available construction cost budget. So by carefully evaluating the constructability, the building structural systems, the materials, and the projected costs with the construction manager at the beginning of the design, we feel that can be accomplished and that goal can be done. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim Williams with Michael Maltzan. He'll step through the activities on the cost plan to date.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Tim Williams, as Raul just said, project manager for the team. What I've been focused on the last 5-6 weeks since Skanska was recommended as a project construction manager is to work with them very closely with our consultants and start to build what is called a cost model. And when they were selected, I believe it was on July, or nominated, or recommended on July 21st, or July 17th, sorry about that. Several days afterwards, they were on a plane to Los Angeles, and what we did is pulled together all of our key consultants, and we sat down with them and worked with them for 3 days through the weekend, and beginning to build and make certain assumptions about the constructability, materiality, and just itemizing the components of the project. These are very early sketches that we did back then, just trying to understand how we might construct a project. We moved from that into what is a 3D costing model, which I'm showing you right now. It's in the process, it's not complete, but it gives you an idea of the complexity of the activities that we're undergoing currently and trying to understand the cost drivers for the project. The work that we're doing is we're looking at itemizing the components of the project, taking into consideration certain load criteria that we'll need to meet, code criteria, fire, life safety, as well as material and constructability considerations as we put this together. In addition to working with Skanska and our team, Skanska has brought several key collaborative experts to begin to think through some of the material and construction options in a real impactful way. We are currently holding weekly project meetings. In fact, we're having one in about an hour from now with the A&E and construction management team, where we go over the decisions that are made and reevaluate where we are in the costing model, in a very collaborative dialogue. At the end of Basis of Design, what you'll see from the construction manager is a detailed cost plan broken down by the key components and the subcomponents. A detailed narrative describing the qualitative aspects of the cost plan, kind of like an outline specification. A list of enhancements with the same level of breakdown to them as well. And with this, I'll hand it back to Raul.
Thanks, Tim. I want to walk you through the budget, basically. And this is a slide that you saw back in May when we presented the Michael Maltzan agreement, and essentially hasn't changed. There's 5 major buckets of the funding that makes up the entire $50 million. And as I explained back in May, there was an amount that had been spent to date leading up through the award of the contract, which was about 4 years' worth of effort, included the competition, included the work of the task force, and other work as well. Then the second budget was the budget we have for design, which includes the $4.7 million in AE fees and other costs, some of which already have gone into, for example, the permitting efforts, the environmental efforts, and some other studies that have been done. And then the project administration costs, including the city's inspection costs, other consulting services, and tenant fit-out work. The demolition and construction budget of $39.5 million and project contingency. So I'll focus a minute on the construction side of the equation. $35 million for constructing the new pier was the estimate that was based on the amount that was anticipated to be remaining from a $39.5 million budget after demolition. The demolition estimate has always been somewhat of a number that we've had to determine. And as part of the basis of design phase, that's been a critical issue for us and something that we knew needed to be known in order to give the consultant and give the contract manager the information they need to design and to build this, or to know what they're going to be building to. So the cost of the demolition has been a major factor in determining the construction cost budget for constructing the new pier. Last Thursday, we did receive bids on the demolition, and those bids are being evaluated right now. There's a series of complex alternates, about 11 different alternates, that need to be taken into consideration. We're evaluating those with the construction manager and the AE, but I can tell you that those bids have come in favorable and it does appear to be below the $4.5 million that was budgeted, which allows a little bit of flexibility within that $39.5 million to construct the pier. The next thing I wanted to talk about is all the other work, the technical work that's been going on in addition to the work that Michael's explained and the presentations that have been made and all the other efforts. So concurrent with all the design refinements, these activities have been taking place and were part of the basis of design contract that we entered into. So included in this phase is the preparation and the submission of the environmental permit application for the demolition of the old pier and the construction of the new pier. A single joint demolition and new construction permit was required by both the state and the federal agencies. So the effort that has gone into the development of that permit package included doing substantial aquatic resources surveys, bathymetric surveys, a full flushing model of the marina, numerous pre-application meetings with the permit agencies, and all the coordination work going into that submission of a very complex set of documents. In addition to that, the AE's effort was also critical in informing the demolition documents. So elements of the existing pier that they are working on, such as the piles within the underwater feature, such as the caissons that are underneath the inverted pyramid, and portions of the bridge structure were all developed as part of these bid alternates in collaboration with the design team. So a lot of effort going into assisting the city in preparing those demolition documents. Another requirement of the basis of design is the key critical technical design criteria. The pier is a very unique structure. It includes elements of a traditional building, such as assembly spaces and horizontal and vertical egress, yet it's also a bridge structure, and it's also got a complex mix of occupancy load factors. So ensuring that the safety of the public, both under normal circumstances and under special events, is being addressed. Meetings have been held and are ongoing with the fire marshal, the building official, to establish an acceptance of a performance-based egress modeling. So we are going to be continuing to meet with all of those officials during the basis of design so that we can answer all those critical questions and move into the design. In addition, the team structural engineer, Bureau Happold, is taking on the lead in the development of the structural design criteria. This is based on a 75-year functional design life and taking into account all the high-velocity wind zone, the analysis of the storm surge, and the impact on the structure. And then finally, as been mentioned, the design team, they were active participants in the review and the interviews for this construction manager throughout. And I'll step real quickly through the schedule. As has been mentioned, this is the initial phase of the project, the base of the design. The red line is currently where we are today. We're about 2/3 of the way through the basis of design, gathering all this input, refining the concept. There's still a good 45, 60 days worth of work to complete that effort, leading to a presentation to City Council in November. We don't have a confirmed date yet for that. That presents the final recommendations and allows council to make a decision to move forward with the project. Also, there's going to be appropriation request to continue the design. The design doesn't officially start then, therefore, until November. There's a 13-month period for design. It'll take us all the way through 2013. The green block just following that is the environmental permitting. As I said, the environmental permitting has already commenced, and it's going to run concurrent with the balance of the design, leading to permit for the demolition, still scheduled for closure of the existing pier in May of 2013. There's a period of about 2 months of decommissioning, and then a 6-month period for the demolition. So demolition likely to start third quarter of 2013 and lead to the first quarter of 2014. And then some final permitting, both internal with the city, closing out some of the other permits with the agencies for the new construction of the pier, leading to the final GMP and presentation of the GMP to City Council to award the construction contract. And then construction anticipating starting around the first quarter of 2014 and going to about the middle of 2015. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Michael.
I just want to finish by saying that our intention today has been to give you a more comprehensive sense of the type of work that has been going on, the many different avenues that the team is approaching the project through, and the significance of the team effort as a whole. And it really has been a team effort, including members of the design team, obviously, members of the community, soon the construction manager, and the work that they've been doing up until this point, city staff and the city as a whole, during the 8 weeks that we have been in this basis of design phase. And to recap the accomplishments to date, this process has had 25, actually now over 25 public outreach meetings of approximately 1,000 people who have had the opportunity to discuss the project directly with the A&E team. 2 workshops and over 7 interviews with key members of the ocean community. More are planned. That's an ongoing process. Selection and recommendation of the construction manager, who will be a key and integral member of the overall team. Submission of the environmental resource permit application, demolition bids received within budget, an ongoing effort of defining the city's critical technical and design criteria that will describe much of the project over the design phases, test fitting and incorporating the concepts gathered from the public outreach meetings, and that is really the work of looking at the amplified and extended possibilities, what other components are and will be a part of the life at the pier, and developing a highly detailed costing model that is currently being used and will continue to be used as our target, as our guidance as we analyze the budget goals and make the pier within those budget goals. I know this has been a lot of different types of information. We will be coming back to you at the end of basis of design. That was supposed to happen right at the end of my talk.
I love Billy Joel.
Uptown Girl.
He looks like
Uptown Girls. We will be coming back to you at the end of basis of design with a similar level of depthful information, but also even more illustrations of what these different components of the project and enhancements actually truly look like. But we are a long way on the road to developing a much more comprehensive understanding of the overall pier. Thank you.